It's time for the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX. On your radio at AM 940 and online at mywithersradio.com. Recognized by the Illinois Broadcasters Association as one of the premier radio feature programs in the state. You're about to roam the region with more guests and content courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. Live from the Powerhouse, the Saturday Sports Show starts now.
And good Saturday morning. Glad to have you with us here from the Powerhouse on Broadway. This is the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX, online at mywithersradio.com. Glad to have you. Chris Hugo with Danny Zerwinski and Jeff Crow in studio this morning. Don't forget, you can always stay up to date on what's going on. Follow us on Twitter at WMIX Sports. Find us on Facebook, WMIX Sports there as well. We're presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Busy lineup for you this morning. We'll talk with regional champion cross-country coach Clint Turner. We'll talk about the Mount Vernon Running Rams effort this weekend at the Cater MacArthur sectional. We'll talk playoff football with Sesser-Valier-Waltonville-Woodlawn head coach Johnny Hollis. We'll talk with the Centralia Orphans head coach Ray Kauling. We'll also talk with Marion Wildcats head coach Kerry Martin. WMIX sports correspondent John Shadowens will come by, as will Jason Karnes. He is the head coach of the Herrin Tigers. They are in playoff action today against the Harrisburg Bulldogs. We'll talk with Jeff Lonnon. Though the coach of the Mount Vernon Lady Rams, he is also a WMIX sports correspondent. Sara Lamczyk, of course, the regional champion head coach of the Woodlawn Lady Cardinals volleyball team, will join us as well. This is all complete with a check of the NBC News at the top of the 10 o'clock hour. It is your Saturday Sports Show, and we need to cut out for a quick break. That's right, we do. The Saturday Sports Show presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
We'll be back with Clint Turner after this.
The state of denial is a drag and a trial. When I bought my cheap insurance, should have known this day would come. Now I've had an accident and I'm feeling quite alone. Called them at least 20 times, but they won't pick up the phone. Without personal service, my policy's kinda worthless. Get to a better state, State Farm.
Don't deny yourself to call an agent. Tony Wilt in Mount Vernon, 242-1421.
Hello, my name's Richard. When my wife had a heart attack, every second felt like an eternity. I wasn't thinking about what hospital had outstanding results or first-class facilities. All I cared about was getting her help fast. Thankfully, I didn't have to think about those things. The ambulance took us to Good Samaritan Regional Health Center. From the second we were admitted, I knew she was in great hands. My wife was immediately treated by an experienced cardiologist. I have no doubt the folks at Good Samaritan saved my wife's life that day. It wasn't until later that I realized Good Samaritan ranks 20% faster than the national average in response time. And they work directly with the prestigious Open Heart program at Washington University. In 2013, Good Samaritan will be opening an all-new regional health center, making their heart care even greater. We're thankful that such quality care exists right here in Southern Illinois.
Good Samaritan Regional Health Center. Raising a hospital, raising the bar.
This Sunday, Jeff Fisher takes his hard-hitting Rams defense across the Great Pond to take on Bill Belichick and the Patriots.
Hangs in and he hangs in too long. He's sacked back inside the 45.
Don't miss a second of this royal rampage. Pre-game 11, game time at noon on the Rams Radio Network.
I'm Steve Savard. Join me and DeMarco Farr for St. Louis Rams football on AM 940 WMIX.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, mywithersradio.com. Glad to have you aboard, courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Proud to welcome to the program now. He is the head coach of the regional champion, Mount Vernon Running Rams. They returned the favor to Carbondale 1 week ago at the Triad Regional, winning 70-73. Of course, they advanced to the Decatur MacArthur sectional today. Coach Clint Turner, good morning.
Good morning, guys. How we doing?
Doing pretty good. I have to imagine a sectional on a golf course. We've talked about that before and how that would work, but remind our listeners again, we'll talk about the regional success here in just a moment. How does a cross-country meet on a golf course work?
Well, like anywhere else you'd run, you just, they don't run you up on the greens, that's for sure, but, there's so much room and space for people to go. Got options with where you put people, and you normally don't go Yeah. Sorry, I'm driving here. I have a backseat driver on me.
Wow. Do we know who that backseat driver is?
Yeah, Miss Hari.
Okay.
They'll take you right down, not right down the fairways, but on the sides of them, and you cut across. And it's, for us, this course is basically flat and fast. So, and you got a lot of green grass to run on as compared to some other things that get us. But it'll be a nice course for us. The weather's not bad. It's nice and sunshiny, and got a little bit of a northerly breeze. But for the most part, I think we're going to be okay.
I got to ask this. First off, this week was a little different week for school in Jefferson County. You and myself, obviously, at the Mount Vernon Conference last couple of days. Translates into a couple things this week for me to look at is, A, your kids were a little different schedule last couple of days going into this sectional meet, and B, how did the warm weather earlier in the week affect training and practice for this sectional? If you could talk about the change in school day for the kids this week and the hot weather earlier this week to run in.
Yeah, I do. Change the schedule is the deal there. And I tell our kids that, the body's a creature of habit. You don't want to change those habits if you can get away with it. And what do? We give our kids 2 days off right before the sectional meet. So what we do, we get them up out of bed and practice at 10 o'clock, which is when we'll start warming up this morning. So I just try to get them in the rhythm of that. We were lucky that the weather moved in on, Thursday night, Friday, so they were able to get out in what I think will be basically the same kind of weather they'll have to deal with today. So it's not going to be a big shock to their system. And just try to keep them rolling. I just stress to them if they can't. I've had kids that show up to Friday practice with a swollen ankle because they rolled it out TPN or fell off the hay wagon on a hay ride or something like that. I just stress to them that, hey, we're all dependent on each other, and we've got to take care of each other, and we can't go out and do something silly, even though it's kind of odd couple days for us.
Speaking of depending on each other, that was last weekend at the Triad Regional. Your team comes away with a regional championship, beating all the conference schools you compete against during the year, but some other big schools as well. How did that go last weekend at Troy Triad winning that regional?
Well, I think our kids, I think it's given our kids a little confidence in just against Carbondale. Triad had been ahead of us over at Edwardsville early in the year, so we'll put a little bit of confidence in our kids and saying, hey, these top couple teams in Southern Illinois, we're right there with them. And my biggest worry was just being on a course that we had never run before, and the kids responded and ran real well. It was fun, and that their course finishes on their track. The last 400 meters, you just run a big lap. So our kids really enjoyed that, put the hammer down, and it was fun to watch.
Putting the hammer down is today at this sectional. A lot of bigger schools involved in this sectional that you have probably run with a little bit this year, maybe not. A lot of the Springfield area schools, some Metro East schools, even some Champaign schools. Talk about some of the teams that you're looking at today, besides your own, that will compete for the sectional championship.
Well, we have seen everybody in our sectional except, with the exception of Muhammad Seymour. They're generally more of a, and they were in our regional last year. You remember we went up to Mattoon. They're predominantly they're more of a team that runs against the Bloomington area, Peoria area schools, and we just don't see them a lot. Even in our northern invitationals, when we go to Peoria or when we go to Springfield, they're not there. But as for schools that are going to be competing against, and trying to get into the sectional championship, Springfield, I think, is the number one rated team. Muhammad's right behind them. It's not real close. And then you look at Sacred Heart Griffin out of Springfield. Chatham Glenwood is always good, and they're, we've kind of traded back and forth with them in a couple of our invitationals. Carbondale, Triad, and us. I kind of look at it being like a 7-team, maybe an 8-team, maybe a Taylorville, maybe a Champaign Central. Central's a really young team, but it's been running well here in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So, those guys could all factor in, and we're running for 5 spots. I think Springfield and Muhammad are, I wouldn't say a lot, but they're pretty solid. So that means the rest of us are shooting for 3 spots, and it can go either way. Good teams sometimes don't get out for whatever reason. I think we're ready to go. Kids are confident. It's just a matter of getting out there and getting after it a little bit.
Of course, with your regional championship and Connie's crew having the vast majority of their kids advance as individuals, is there a little bit of extra pride right now in both sides of the cross-country program?
Well, yeah, we're proud of being regional champs. And again, as much as it helped our confidence, I think it maybe kind of hopefully shook up Carbondale and Triad a little bit, thinking, man, these guys are running well. So like what we're doing, talking about, all right, who can get out? Where do we sit? You put, by doing what we've done, you put our team in the minds of other coaches and other teams, and it's a benefit. And Coach Hari was laughing at me today. She asked me what uniforms we were going to wear. We were fiddling around in the equipment room in the boys' gym, and they found a couple of our older jerseys and asked if they could wear them, and we ended up wearing some jerseys that we haven't worn for about 7 or 8 years. And, nobody could find us on the course at Triad, and it was funny. Just a little different look for us. And they voted to wear them again today, so that's what we're going to do.
Why not keep a good thing going? But we want to as well. We ask you our final question, of course, as you know, it's our social media question of the week. And we asked today, if you could be a kid again, or if you're a kid at heart, what would you dress up for Halloween on Wednesday night?
Boy, you guys got me there now. I don't know. I never was a big dress-up guy, but I was always some kind of sports figure of some kind. I always had a Roger Worley. Here's what I'd be. I'd be Roger Worley of the St. Louis Football Cardinals.
Wow.
All right, what number did Roger Worley, the Hall of Famer, wear?
Wasn't he like an 87 or something like that?
Nope, 22.
I see. Yeah. So I was too worried about the Cowboys beating them every time they played them.
So I'd have my white football helmet on with the Cardinal big red emblem on the side, and my football shoulder pads, and my number 22 jersey on. There you go.
That is awesome. Coach, good luck today. Good luck to Coach Hari Blair as well, and let's do this again next week.
All right, guys. Appreciate it. Hopefully things go well.
We hope so. That's Clint Turner, head coach of the Mount Vernon Running Rams, and we wish them luck. Last week they come home regional champions, and hopefully this week they come home sectional champions as well. And we can't forget the Lady Running Rams as well. They had 3 participants. Again, that's the majority of the crew. Rebecca Rexine, Camilla Bauer, Zoe Mattingly all advanced to the sectional today as well for the Running Lady Rams. So we need to talk some high school football after the break. Running just slightly behind, but that's okay. It's worth it. Johnny Hollis of the Sesser-Valier-Waltonville-Woodlawn Red Devils will join us next here on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
We'll be back after these.
Hello, this is Hunt Bonin with People's National Bank. People's National Bank is proud to be a family-owned bank that has served Southern Illinois for over 100 years. We take pride in offering products that are customer convenient and friendly. With free checking, online banking, CD specials, mortgage products, and many other convenient banking services, we have everything to meet your banking needs. Stop by any People's National Bank and see what banking with a family-owned bank is all about. People's National Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
How many times have you heard dealers telling you now is the best time to trade? Hi, Roy Schmidt, Ford dealer, Ford Square, Mount Vernon. I really do need your truck trade and want to make it worth your time with big savings. It doesn't matter which Ford F-Series truck has your eye because you will save. We are discounting up to $5,500 off of an MSRP on a new 2012 F-150 Super Cab, up to $5,000 off a F-250 Crew Cab, or up to $4,000 off a new 2012 F-250 regular cab. Need a little more power? We can offer up to $6,250 off a new F-250 regular cab diesel or F-350 diesel crew cab. Show me your truck trade and I'll show you savings. Come see one of our sales consultants to save big money and drive away in a Ford F-Series or any Ford Lincoln model. New or pre-owned at Ford Square, 1501 Broadway, Mount Vernon, Illinois.
WMIX, a service of Withers Broadcasting.
Oh, we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, My Withers. MyWithersRadio.com. Chris Hugo with Danny Zerwinski and Jeff Crow in studio with you this morning. Proud to welcome to the program his team rolling into the playoffs today against Vienna Goreville. It's Johnny Hollis of the Sesser-Valier-Waltonville-Woodlawn Red Devils. Coach Hollis, good morning.
Hey, good morning, man.
You know what? Great day. It looks like it's going to be a beautiful day for high school football. Temperature in the 50s as you guys head to Johnson County to take on a familiar foe. What was your initial reaction when you found out you were going to be playing Vienna Goreville today?
Well, we were excited, because we think it's a game we can be very competitive in, and it saved us. I mean, we worked hard this week, but it saved us running who knows where to try to get film from people, and our kids have played there before this year, and so I think it's eased us a little bit. I mean, not that we're totally excited about playing two Hall of Fame coaches and an NFL line up there, but anyway, we're excited about being in the playoffs and what our team's accomplished this year.
All the way back in week 4 of this season, you went to Vienna on Saturday afternoon, much like today. Lost 27-6, but played with them early, and then they kind of pulled away. What things, if any, can you take from that week 4 matchup and use them today and with this week 10 first round of the playoffs?
Well, looking at the film from when we played them last time, we just made some silly mistakes at crucial times. Drop passes or maybe a sack or a penalty, when it was 3rd and short, and then it put us at, 3rd and long or whatever. But, I think we're playing a lot better brand of football now. We've limited our mistakes, and there was also some errors that they made that we weren't able to capitalize on, and we've been doing that the last few games. So I look for today to be a lot more competitive game.
A group of seniors and juniors that are going to lead your team this afternoon has been around a program that's made the playoffs 4 years in a row now, I believe, the Nashville, Breeze Central, now Vienna Goreville. What does that do for your team compared to, say, 3 or 4 years ago you were coaching, where you walk into a new environment of being in the playoffs compared to today where the kids have been around it, they've played in it, they're used to the situation now being in the playoffs?
Well, I think that's huge, for us. I mean, there's some of our kids, like Matt Laux and Justin Kulik and some of these kids, that this will be their 4th playoff game of their career. I mean, that's pretty neat. So it's something that I don't know that you excuse me, I got a little cold going on. There's something that I don't know that you ever get used to it, but at the same time, I think there's a comfort factor there of playing Week 10 on Saturday. And, some of them have a real foul taste in their mouth, that we would like to advance to the second round, and a lot of them are committed to do that today.
At that point, your team at the week 4 was 1-3. You started stumbling out of the gate. Of course, you had to play 3 of 4 playoff teams to open up your schedule. But a unique thing you mentioned in a local paper this morning is the fact that after that game, you had a meeting with your team. Your team started to do some more team-like things in all ways. What were some of those things that your team did to change kind of their mantra and their air about them as they moved on from week 4 to the rest of the high school season?
Yeah, I can't remember who I talked to exactly the other day, but I just got pretty specific with the kids. We had kids, and I don't mind, everybody is different. But at the same time, we've got to be a team. And there were guys that were, they'd have like a little different pair of socks than everybody else, or a different mouth guard, or they'd have a visor in their helmet, one of those clear visors. And I just came in one day after that loss to Vienna, I mulled over that all weekend because I was down a little bit, and just trying to figure out, here's all this potential, and why are we not getting it done? And I kept coming back to the idea that I think each of them are playing for themselves and not for each other. And so we had a meeting that Monday morning, and I said some things, and I was worried about saying some of those things to some of the kids because I didn't know which way it would go. But as it turns out, right when we got done with our meeting, we went down to get some field work done down there, and the guys were asking for screwdrivers to take visors out of their helmet, and guys were coming in and buying the proper socks and asking for a different mouth guard. And, man, it was just a neat moment. It's a moment I'll never forget.
Speaking of that moment, it comes at 1 o'clock this afternoon. Talk about some of the keys to this game today that'll get the Red Devils a win and move you into round number 2.
Yeah, I think we've got to come out of the gate strong, and our speed is a big asset for us. They've got good size, so I think we need to utilize our speed. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier, when they make mistakes, we've got to take advantage of it and then limit our mistakes.
Well, and of course, it's hard to believe it's that time already, time for the WMIX Sports Question of the Week. And this week, we think of the Devils and we think about how popular that is as a Halloween costume amongst little kids. That brings us to our question. Whether you're a kid now or you're a kid at heart, if you had to dress up this Halloween or wanted to dress up this Halloween, which costume would you choose?
Hey, man, I saw some kids at our Halloween parade, and a couple of them were dressed like Uncle Si from Duck Dynasty. I think I'd have to go that route. Give me a little blue teacup and grow my beard out a little bit.
Nice.
That's a different choice.
Out of the box a little bit. We like that.
You can tell you're a school teacher because you figure out and see different things picked out. You know what I mean? At the little kid stuff.
Yeah, you see it all, man. I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
Coach, we wish the Devils the best of luck today, and good luck down there at Vienna Goreville.
Hey, guys, I sure appreciate the coverage. Thank you.
As always, that is Johnny Hollis, of course, head coach of the Sesser-Valier-Waltonville-Woodlawn Red Devils. 4 straight postseason appearances now for the Devils, and, of course, good luck to them as well, as they are a Jefferson County team in our hearts, and so we wish them the best of luck. Hope we can talk to Coach Hollis again next week as they would play, I believe, the winner of Chester and Altop, if I have that down correctly. No, I have that backwards. We'll talk more about that. That's why we discuss these things here on the Saturday Sports Show, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
As you're rolling down the road on your Harley-Davidson from Dale's Harley-Davidson, remember, don't text and drive. Even if you're following us on Facebook and Twitter, remember that Dale's Harley-Davidson is the #1 Harley dealer in Southern Illinois, with free food and entertainment every Saturday during the riding season. Free pickup and delivery, 84-month financing, and home with a $29.95 oil change. Open 7 days a week at Dale's Harley-Davidson, just off I-57 in Mount Vernon, or visit us at dales-hd.com and follow us on Facebook and Twitter.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital. With our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge, the entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. It's all presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
You bet it is. Welcome to the program now. The head coach of the 9-0 Centralia Orphans, it's Ray Kauling. Coach, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys this morning?
You know, we're doing pretty good. The Orphans finished 9-0 for the first time since 1969. A remarkable turnaround in, I believe, what is now your 4th year up there at Centralia. How did it feel to get that win at the final buzzer against Muscuda last week and finish 9-0?
It felt pretty gratifying. You know, I'd be lying if I said it didn't. But at the same time, it was our goal for the week is to win that game. And, you know, we try to set weekly goals of being successful, getting better, and hopefully getting a win. And we were able to do that again last week.
Looking at last week, 9-0, conference champs, 5-0, going into this week. You know, it's an exciting time, as Chris mentioned, to go undefeated, but how has the focus been for your team to get off of that and get into ready and prepared and focus for this Jacksonville team?
Actually, it's been pretty good. I think our kids learned a lot from the playoff game last year, the week that went with it. I'd like to think that, you know, we prepared ourselves a little better this year than we did last year for that one.
You get a team out of the CS8, Jacksonville, who qualifies one of 5 teams from that conference of CS8. What do you know? And obviously you know a lot about Jacksonville going into today, but what does Jacksonville bring to the table today in Centralia?
Well, they're going to try to run the ball first, but they're also very balanced. They're not afraid to throw the ball. They got a young quarterback who took over in week 5. This quarterback's a sophomore, but he's attempted more passes in the last 4.5 games than the first guy did in the first 4.5 games. So, the running back's a good quality running back. Reminds me a lot of Henry, the kid from Marion, and they got 2 big tight ends. One's 6'4", 250. The other one's 6'6", 240. But neither one of them really play tight end too much. They both stand up more like. I've said it all week. They remind me a lot of Gronkowski and Hernandez from the Patriots. They're big, mobile tight ends that don't always play tight end. They'll line up in the slot or wherever they need to line up to have their team be successful. But and then Reggie Bratton, their wide receiver, is a returning 100-meter champion in Class 2A, so that provides plenty of punch on the outside.
Your team comes in 9-0, as we mentioned, and at this time of the year, bumps and bruises, and some things have been going on through a long football season. How healthy are the Orphans going into today, obviously without giving away any trade secrets?
Well, I think we're about as healthy as we can be. I mean, knowing that Diamond had a very severe injury in Week 6 against Cahokia, and he's kind of our emergency guy today. If we have to go to somebody else, it'd be him. He's not 100%. If we put him out there, he's going to gut it out. He's a warrior, but we'll go with Rashad at quarterback. And other than that, I think we're about like everybody else. I'm sure everybody's, seems like everybody on the team's got something they need ice for at this point in the season.
Is in the year 2 of making the playoffs, has the excitement and atmosphere changed a little bit, more of an expectation of we should be in the playoffs rather than, oh my gosh, look at us, we're in the playoffs, that's good enough now?
Well, I think maybe a little bit. I think more with this group, I think they felt like they should be where they're, in the playoffs where they're at right now. I don't think any of us really thought 9-0 was a projected goal for us. We just kept winning week in and week out, and we're not going to, as I said before, we're not going to give any of them back. But I think that this group expected to be in the playoffs. I think deep down that's what their expectation, their goal was, to get back to the playoffs and find a way to win a playoff game.
Of course, I know you're a Friday night playoff guy, a lot like myself, and I know this one had to be played on Saturday due to both teams not being able to make that happen. But how do you convince, or I shouldn't say convince, your goals obviously are to go out there and win every football game. You got to the postseason last year, came up a bit short in that first week. How did you talk to your team in the locker room and tell them, hey, we just finished 9-0, let's make it 10-0 and get that playoff win for Centralia?
Well, basically said about like you said it right there, Chris. I mean, honestly, it was said on the field, right then. I asked them if 9 was enough. I've asked them every week, is that enough? If that's enough, we'll just pack up the gear and we'll call the rest of the people and tell them we're not going to show up next week. But we asked them, after the Marion game, if 7 was enough, and after the Mount Vernon game, if 8 was enough. And they said no, we want another. And then last week after the Scuda game, I said, is this what you wanted? Is 9-0 everything you wanted? Or do you have more to accomplish? And to a man, they all wanted more to do. They want to keep playing. So I like to think we're going to be ready to play this afternoon.
Of course, that brings us to our WMIX Sports Question of the Week, a little bit off topic here. Halloween Parade Day, all the festivities going on in Centralia kind of inspired our question. Whether you were a kid now or maybe just a kid at heart, if you could dress up as anything for Halloween this year as a kid, what would you dress up as?
Oh, man.
Chuck Lane cannot be an answer.
No.
It can't?
Okay, if you want to.
I don't know. I mean, knowing my portly self the way I am, I think I'd have to go for a version of Chris Farley.
Nice. Blast from the past.
Yeah, well, be a motivational speaker. Living in a van down by the river.
Let's see. Chip and Dale's dancing on Saturday Night Live too.
I think stick to Matt Foley on that one. The Chris Farley character.
Matt Foley.
There we go. Ray, best of luck to you in the Orphans today, and good luck trying for 10-0.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
That's Ray Kauling, head coach of Centralia Orphans. Big things going on there, of course. 0-9 for so many seasons, that losing streak, and go 1-8 the first year, 3-6 the next, 8-1 last year. They make the playoffs. They fall in the first round, and this year 9-0 for the first time since '69. And I don't care where you're from, whether you're from Mount Vernon, whether you're from Centralia, wherever you're from, that is a big deal. Not unlike Kerry Martin and the Marion Wildcats turnaround over the course of the past decade. Speaking of which, Kerry Martin's our next guest here on the Saturday Sports Show. We'll have him on in just a moment. We need to take a quick break. This is the Saturday Sports Show presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
Attention all Medicare Part D pharmacy patients. The annual enrollment period begins earlier this year, October 15th, and ends December 7th. And the Medicine Shop Pharmacy is ready to help you. Stop by or call to make an appointment with Eric Black or Tracy Adams. They'll review your current prescription plan and help you manage your Medicare dollars. Here's pharmacist and pharmacy owner Eric Black.
What we offer to our patients is to sit down with them and answer questions that they may have about their medications, really with the end goal of being to maximize their dollars, because that's, after all, what patients really want. We'll take appointments, we'll sit down with them, take as long as it takes to help them choose a plan that is effective at meeting their needs.
Remember, the good folks at the Medicine Shop Pharmacy are never too busy to take care of you. They look forward to understanding your healthcare needs and will focus on keeping you well. The Medicine Shop Pharmacy, 2339 Broadway in Mount Vernon.
To call to make an appointment, call 618-242-8776.
The tradition of fine vehicles and great service continues at Second Chance Auto. They've been providing quality cars, trucks, vans, and SUVs for families like yours for over 32 years, and many are priced under $10,000. Plus, most have a 3-month or 3,000-mile warranty. Bank rate financing available with instant approval. No gimmicks, no pressure, just honest deals on great vehicles from your friends and neighbors at Second Chance Auto, living and contributing back to the community they serve. Located on Route 142 East in Mount Vernon, or call 244-4582.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWeathersRadio.com. Chris Hugo with Danny Zerwinski and Jeff Crow in studio for you this morning, courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Our next guest is in a battle of 7-2 teams today. Head coach of the Marion Wildcats, Kerry Martin, his team on the road today at Chatham-Glenwood. Coach Martin, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
You know what, doing pretty good. Obviously a big day for the Marion Wildcats. It's another South 7 versus CS8 battle going on this afternoon. But your Wildcats finished 7-2. Some great tests along the way. I think back to the Week 5 game against the Mount Vernon Rams. You guys got that one out 29-28. And then coming along the rest of the way, also pick up some big wins throughout the rest of the conference. It seems like a great preparation going into a tough game against a tough CS8 team.
Well, you like to think so. You know, I think we're pretty proud of the South 7 Conference and the competition we play at, and I think those schools have, in our conference have made us a better football team. They continue to improve, and we have greater parity, I think, in the conference than we did, say, 10 years ago, and every week's a battle, and I think that kind of competition makes you better for the playoffs.
Speaking of being better for the playoffs, your team is 7-2, as Chris mentioned. Had a tough loss in Week 4 against Cahokia, struggled with Mount Vernon, but then went to Althoff and won, but lost at Centralia. At that point of the year, were you concerned with your team and the direction they were going, even though they turned it around, obviously, to get to the playoffs?
I'm mainly concerned about the inconsistency in the mid part of the schedule. We played really well at the beginning of the year, and then we went through a 4-game period where we were just inconsistent. We played very well at times and not so well at others. And I think with the last couple of weeks we've been better about being consistent. I think that's one of the things to look for when you go into the playoffs is, being a more consistent team, making fewer mistakes, not turn the ball over as much. And I think we've kind of finished on a high note, which is what you want to do.
I'm going to mention last year you had Shaquille Ivey. Way back when you had a guy by the name, I believe, Chris Dalton. And now you have a guy by the name of Henry Jones. I'm not going to ask you to compare the three, but I'm going to ask you to talk about, or I should say, Jones in one word. Can you describe Henry Jones in one word, what he means to your football team?
Toughness.
Yeah.
He is a hard-nosed football player. He plays the same speed all the time. Practice, games, first quarter, fourth quarter. He's a tough kid, and he runs tough. He's learned to catch the ball. He's a great blocker. He gives you everything he's got on every snap, and one of the toughest kids I've ever coached.
He has over 1,400 rushing yards, averaging 7.1 yards a carry. Carried you, not kidding, I was kidding there with that, carried you last week at Normandy, Missouri to get that win. Was he the guy that kind of took over for your team in the middle part of the year when things were starting to kind of waver a little bit as your team kind of found themselves in the middle of the year?
I think good players like that tend to bring that consistency that you need, and I think we've had it really from a number of kids. Henry's certainly to the top of the list. Our quarterback, Matt Lewis, has finished the season very strong, and I just think overall our offensive line has gotten better, and I think we've played some younger kids up there with less experience when the season began, but I think they've gotten better, and they're more consistent maybe than they were early in the year. But I think overall, certainly having a go-to guy that you can count on in crucial times or in crunch time does help, because in those big play moments in a ball game, you've got to have some go-to people, and certainly that helps.
Of course, much has been made about the success of the Central State 8 and about the South 7 and lack of success possibly against the CS 8. How do the Marion Wildcats today silence those critics? What does it take?
Well, it's a matter of going out and doing the things that you need to do in the off season to prepare yourself to play at that level. Certainly, they are considered the standard kind of in 5A football south of the suburbs of Chicago, and we certainly are striving to be competitive with that conference. I think we've proven to be competitive in every other conference in Southern Illinois, but we haven't had a lot of run-ins with that conference except for the playoffs. And I think we're 1-1. We beat Taylorville, I think, 4 or 5 years ago, and we lost to Springfield 47-45 2 years ago. And so we've had some competition with them and some good ball games with them, but it's going to come down to sooner or later we got to step up, especially in the playoffs in these big ball games, and prove that the South 7 is on an equal footing with that conference, and that conference has so many good teams and so many good coaches, and of course that's what today is all about. It's you want to move on and win, but you also want to represent your conference well.
Well, we know you're taking a long bus ride to Springfield to chat to Marion. We understand we got to get your mind on something else just to kind of take the weight off the playoff stress. We asked today with our social media question, if you could be a kid again, or if you're a kid at heart, what would you dress up for at Halloween?
Wow. Great question, and I'm kind of game-focused right now, so I'm scrambling at this moment to think about it. I would say probably a pirate.
Nice.
Oh.
Very nice.
We just try to take the, give you something to think about else as you're driving along on the bus up there,
Well, as a pirate, how about you guys go up there and steal a victory from the Chatham-Glenwood Titans today?
And that sounds great. We're going to do our best. We're excited about the opportunity, and we're looking forward to getting there.
Well, Coach, good luck today against Chatham-Glenwood, and we are certainly rooting for you guys to make a return appearance in the postseason next week.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
That's Coach Kerry Martin, and good luck to the Marion Wildcats today. Of course, conference foe of the Malvern and Ramsey team we cover here on WMIX, but at the same time, a representative of Southern Illinois. And though Chatham is also in our coverage area, believe it or not, here on AM 940, hard-pressed not to have a rooting interest in Coach Kerry Martin, one of the good guys in Southern Illinois football. Of course, a lot of good guys in Southern Illinois football, but we definitely want to wish the Marion Wildcats, the Centralia Orphans, the Sesser-Valier-Waltonville Red Devils, 3 coaches that we've talked to thus far here on the Saturday Sports Show. Good luck today. Plenty more to come. It's high school football playoff day. We still have John Shadowens, Jason Karnes, Jeff Lonnon. We'll talk some high school volleyball with Sara Lamczyk, her team. Winners of the Wayne City Regional, of course, this past week. Let's see, time-wise. Not going to fall for that trick again over across the way. About 47 past the 8 o'clock hour here in the studios of AM 940 WMIX. Tell you what, we actually did have some football games last night. We can't forget that. We usually give you our scores. Yeah, we did. We usually give you our scores at 15 and 45. Not a lot last night. We're right about 45 past the 8 o'clock hour, but we do have some scores from last night from the area.
And Class 4A, Olney beat Breeze Mater Dei at home 29-23. Alton Marquette, game that Chris and I went and saw, beat Waterloo at home 28-21. In Class 5A, SHG, as CSA, beat Highland 55-10. And in Class 8A, congratulations to our friends over in O'Fallon. They went up to Homewood Flossmoor, in the suburbs of Chicago last night. O'Fallon wins 37-35, so big shout-out to the O'Fallon Panthers on their big win last night going on the road.
And they now get to host a random Chicago school next week. You assume that'll be a Friday night with O'Fallon. You never know. The LaGrange Lions would have to agree to it, as they actually upset number 2 Chicago Marist last night. in Chicagoland.
That's your adopted high school team.
Yeah, you go to Centralia Holiday Tournament for about 50 years, and that'll help that along. But yeah, LaGrange Lions got a big win last night over my Chicago Marist, I guess you could say. But it'll be O'Fallon and Lions next week in Class 8A, and then Highland Bulldogs, of course, a tough draw to have to go up to Sacred Heart Griffin, and so it'll be SHG against the winner of Centralia and Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm. Olney will leave, Wednesday to get to Marquette?
Boy, that's no kidding.
3-hour drive.
Olney got that big win last night over Mater Dei, and he thought that would go the other way easily. And all in all, it was a great night of high school football for the few teams that played. It'll be a better day of high school football today. We'll talk about a lot of the matchups today with John Shadowens, WMIX Sports Correspondent, here in just a moment. But there are plenty of games on the docket here on a Saturday afternoon, and it is going to be a beautiful day of high school football. It should be sunny, temperatures in the 50s wherever you may be across the landscape that is Southern Illinois, and just plenty of matchups going on today all across between the rivers.
Mm-hmm. There's all kinds of teams that we cover or have covered or who have score updates. In 1A, Dupo at Marora Forsyth, a rekindling of a battle that happened a lot of times in the 80s and 90s. Oblong is at Sidale, Jamaica Co-op at 1 p.m., so Oblong out of the lick. 2A, Johnston City at DuQuoin. Carmi at KC Westfield, that's at 2 o'clock. And, of course, the much-talked-about game, Altoff at Chester, where the South 7 Conference plays the Black Diamond, a matchup that many people did not think they would see conference-wise. Class 3A, AJ at Greenville at 1:30 p.m. AJ has an undefeated record against Greenville in the playoffs over the years. SVWW at Vienna Goreville at 1, as we mentioned. Robinson at Benton today at 2 p.m. I'm taking a team in maroon in that game. Carterville at Vandalia at 2 p.m. An interesting matchup. The River to River has owned the South 7 Conference since 96 in playoffs. In 4A, Herrin at Harrisburg at 1 p.m. We're going to have Jason Karnes in the second hour. Talk about that game. Mount Carmel at Columbia at 1 p.m. Maybe the game of the day. A lot of people are really looking at that one. Bloomington Central Catholic at our friends from Charleston at 2 p.m. And Muhammad Seymour will go to Rochester at 6 p.m. Of course, Mount Vernon played Rochester in week 1. 5A, Mattoon is at Jerseyville at 2 p.m. today. I believe that's a rematch, is it not?
What's that?
Mattoon and Jerseyville.
I think from last week.
Last week, yeah, back-to-back weeks. Marion at Chatham Glenwood, of course, 2 o'clock. We just talked about that. Jacksonville Centralia, 2 o'clock. We talked about that. 7A football. Edwardsville host Pekin. The Dragons come to town at 2 p.m. And Belleville West at East St. Louis at 1 p.m. in a rematch of Southwestern Conference teams.
Also, some teams that I both had pegged for a Friday night matchup last night. Pekin, Edwardsville, and Belleville West and St. Louis, East St. Louis, pardon me. Did not quite work out that way. But all in all, it was a great Friday night of football where they had it. And beautiful weather in terms of high school football. Temperatures in the 40s at night. So winds were calm. We saw Public School Stadium there in Alton. Although there was a private school playing there, oddly enough.
Well, I mean, that was the first time I'd been there. Obviously, hearing about the facility and Alton Marquette playing there, a lot of the games that DuQuoin played there over the years, hearing about that facility, making that trip for the first time. It was nice to see that facility up close and get a look at it. And very good game last night. Glad we went over there and saw a 28-21 contest.
Well, a great night. And, of course, we got to visit with a Speedy friend before the game and then see what is a beautiful old-fashioned stadium there. Alton Marquette and Alton High School both play in. And you look at that game last night and really thought it was going to go the other way handily, but Tim Nelson's Alton Marquette Explorers proved otherwise, and that's a great team on a great run. They've been successful ever since the playoffs came to fruition in '74, and I believe 08, 09, 10, 11, 12, making their 5th straight playoff appearance there at Alton Marquette, and they proved why. Waterloo was fast at times, but I just thought ran into trouble against a tougher Marquette team. But that said, it was good to see some high school football outside of Class 5A.
It was something different. I see some 4A football, and we make the trip to Alton. Been to Alton several times, but never have been to that particular facility. It was nice to get there and see that and see the layout. And talking with my friends from DuQuoin about it as I was there last night, explaining to me different things. Of course, Craig Hentrick went to school at Alton Marquette. He was an NFL punter for years with the Titans and Packers. Won a Super Bowl with the Packers. So, stepping around in there in that part of the world and seeing things, and then saw a great game as well, and Olney will go to Alton Marquette next week. It's about a 3-hour drive from Olney to Alton Marquette. I mean, from one side of the state to the other. So
Tweeting back and forth with Coach Joggers.
Yeah.
At WMIX Sports, you can follow us. Tell them to get a Friday night game while we're at it.
I thought about that, but you know how that goes.
You know, Twitterverse, sometimes things can be misconstrued as well. But congratulations to the area teams that were able to pull out a victory last night. Of course, we wish all area teams good luck here today on the Saturday Sports Show. We'll have plenty more to talk about after the top of the hour, but don't forget our WMIX Sports social media question of the week. If you could be a kid again, or maybe you're still a kid at heart, Halloween's approaching. Some places had trick-or-treat last night. I know Centralia did. Some trick-or-treat still to come. But say it was old school and you had to dress up for a Halloween party on Wednesday, the 31st. Let's observe it that day, the traditional day. Mm-hmm. If you observe Halloween, celebrate Halloween, party on Halloween, what have you, what would you dress up as? What would your costume be for Halloween? And you can tweet that on Twitter at WMIX Sports. It's posted on Facebook, facebook.com/WMIX Sports. And I think that's a valid question. DC, I mean, you're in a costume every day as far as a national celebrity. Obviously, the Jeff Fisher doppelganger in here, but that's a very good question because it has me kind of stumbling.
I mean, there's several ideas. Easiest things to do to pull off is wrestlers with T-shirts and other paraphernalia.
Okay.
You know,
weren't you like a coach last year?
I've been a coach before, borrowed headsets and the like. I've been a wrestler. I've been some scary movie figures with masks. Of course, a lot of schools going away from masks and other items
understandably
now.
so.
You have to just walk in and be yourself. Face paint excluded as well. So it's kind of...
Masks are dangerous if you don't cut the eye holes out big enough.
I was CM Punk this year.
Were you really?
Yes.
I'm going to be Terry Milt.
Yeah.
And that's only because he just texted me.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Is he listening?
Yes.
Yeah. Terry Milt would be a great costume. You know who Terry Milt at the Mount Vernon Conference
I don't have
would
the
be a
hair
great
to pull that
costume.
off.
I could pull that off.
Let's see. I really don't know. Crow, if you had an idea as far as a costume, do you have anything in mind whatsoever? You're shaking your head at me like you don't have anything. Not right now. We'll come back to Jeff Crow a little bit later on. See what he has. Maybe
he dressed as a volleyball ref.
He pulled that off at the modern-day regional this
everybody's
week.
Comedian.
That's not well, maybe. I don't know.
Hey, I know what he'd do. Not a volleyball official, a volleyball clinician.
Oh, heavens. We were around enough of those the other day.
Oh, we heard all kinds last night.
Anyhow, what would I be for Halloween in all seriousness? That's tough. I was like Nolan Ryan 5 years in a row one time. Don't you even. I see what you're suggesting, and that is not even funny. And you know what? As the Wi-Fi administrator around here, I'm going to bar that. Yeah. I'm just going to ban that from the network. It'll come up fail. Epic fail is what it'll come up. You could be the Twitter bird.
Yeah.
That's something kind of out of the box. In my thinner days, I could pull off Matt Hasselbeck pretty well.
Yeah. Hey, I got another good one.
What's that?
You could dress up like Wade Thomas and act like somebody that works.
I could. I'm taking
shots on.
If he's listening, I could get a nice. I could get myself a little hair there.
Yeah.
Get the nice little sweater vest and whatnot, and be Wade. That'd be an honorable.
I'll see him today.
Honorable costume.
I'm sure I'll slip down there and see him somewhere.
I cannot. And I'm going on way too much about this, so maybe I'll just tweet it later. Crow, you have one?
What you got?
I could really mess with one of our listeners, as soon-to-be guests later today. I could dress up as Gigantopithecus and, walk around the woods by his house.
Yeah. Well, another guest at 9 o'clock has the bear, the El Dorado bear, the alleged El Dorado.
You know what? I'm going to be a bear with a license plate hanging around my neck. How about that?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Wow, I really don't have anything whatsoever.
There's all kinds of options.
There's so many things you could do. You know what I've always wanted to do? Hold on. I don't know where you're going, but here's where I'm going. 4 years ago, actually, a buddy and I were supposed to be Tubbs and Crockett on Miami Vice. I had found like a couple of white suits, and the pastel's a little bit difficult to come by right now. But
I have actually seen your action figure.
I do have an action figure.
Yes, you do at the Hoop Center. You have
there is a Chris Hugo action figure floating around out there. Hard to believe, as that may be. That there really is one.
Yes, there is.
I believe it's Jim Ross's body.
Yeah.
It's a very flattering Jim Ross action figure. And then Gene Snitsky's head.
Yeah.
No, it's the Jim Ross headset and a Vince McMahon body, I think.
Vince McMahon body, yes.
Yeah, a good friend of mine made that. But I would go Miami Vice. As long as I could find, I don't care to be Tubbs or Crockett. That matters very little to me. But I'd have to find somebody else to be one or the other. So there you go, Miami Vice for me. And that takes care of that for us. Probably spent a little too much time on that, but you can tweet us up or hit us on Facebook and share your answer as well. If you were a kid, again, or maybe you're a kid at heart, what would you dress up for as Halloween if you were trick-or-treating, whatnot, celebrating at school? They might have celebrate at school these days. I don't know. I haven't been there for a while. You're there every day.
I think at Sesser's, Coach Hollis may have actual parade. They
nice.
Parade the kids around town in the school.
You know what I miss? I miss getting that little goodie bag at Christmas time with the orange, the apple, and the candy bar in it. And some peanuts. Those were the days. I don't know if every grade school did it. Mine did. Good enough.
I don't want to stretch this out too much.
Yeah, you're right.
But the big predicament at schools is with Halloween being, like in Jefferson County especially, you have a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or a Monday, Tuesday, and then you're out for conference, parent-teacher conferences and the Mount Vernon Conference. Is deciding when to have it. Do you have it on the Monday? Do you have it on Wednesday next week? What do you do? That's another issue around schools, besides all the costumes and get-up garb is that.
I'll tell you something that's not a predicament. We have so many fine sponsors. We actually need to hear for a couple right now. Before we come back with the top of the hour, WMIX sports correspondent John Shadowens here on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back up to these.
Hi, this is Joe Davy Cummins, President of Community First Bank. I wanted to stop and thank each person running for political office in our area. The commitment, passion, and concern they show in their campaign is truly amazing to me. These people show their concern for the community by stepping out there and placing their personal lives to the scrutiny of everyone. Nothing better shows a commitment to community than those selfless acts. All of us at Community First Bank would like to encourage everyone to vote and thank those candidates and volunteers for their hard work during this campaign season. Community First Bank with locations in Mount Vernon, Woodlawn, Dixon, Ina. Welcome back to Personal Banking. Member FDIC.
This is WMIX, Mount Vernon, Marion, another Withers Broadcasting Station.
The Orthopedic Center of Southern Illinois welcomes Dr. Beth Conradi to their medical staff. Dr. Conradi specializes in comprehensive pain management using a multidisciplinary team approach by working with other specialists for optimal diagnosis and treatment of pain. Dr. Conradi will treat most conditions of the spine, including management of cancer pain. Dr. Beth Conradi, helping to make life better day after day at the Orthopedic Center of Southern Illinois in Mount Vernon. Call 618-242-3778.
Follow the adventures of a cherished Rivertown youth who always seems to find mischief with the Rend Lake College Theater's production of Tom Sawyer, based on the novel by Mark Twain. See local thespians in this delightful presentation. The curtain goes up at 7 p.m. on November 8th, 9th, and 10th, with a special 2 p.m. matinee on November 11th. Tickets are just $12 and are available now at the Rend Lake College Theater box office at rlc.edu or by calling toll-free 800-369-5321, extension 1214.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWithersRadio.com. Glad to have you with us. Top of the hour. It begins a new hour here with the Saturday Sports Show. Hope you've enjoyed the guests and discussion thus far. It will continue on. We're working on WMIX sports correspondent John Shadowens, Jason Karnes of the Herrin Tigers still to come. Jeff Lonnon acting as a WMIX sports correspondent to talk some high school football today as well. We'll talk a little bit about the preparation that goes into playoff football as well. Sara Lamczyk, of course, she is the head coach of the Woodlawn Lady Cardinals, regional champion volleyball team. They win the 1A regional at Wayne City this past week, upsetting number 1 Christ-Star Rock Lutheran on Thursday night. So a good win for the Lady Cardinals. Of course, we'll talk plenty about some of the high school football going on today. A lot of good matchups, but you really think about those that would have been most intriguing and some of the matchups that we were hoping to see and really didn't get a lot of those, I thought. One that you had mentioned, I think, about week 5, maybe week 4, the possibility if Chester were to run the table.
Yes.
And we knew Altoff more than likely would be Class 2A, of that matchup happening, Altoff at Chester, and it's come to fruition.
And it has, and I think the overall feeling about week 3 or 4 for me was looking where Altoff had been. They didn't win a playoff game last few years. They're going to bump down, and they're going to go 2A. And you start looking around at geography and numbers, and Chester had been laid out for me since week 4. It comes to fruition tonight at 6 p.m. Never did I think I would see a Black Diamond team play a South 7 team, playoff, regular season, anything. 7-on-7, yes. But it is what it is, and this is the system we're currently under. Somebody's going to get somebody like that. Once Althoff wins that game tonight, hey, they're going to go back up to 4A next year. Now, a school that Mater Dei lost last night, they got to go another, 4 more years before they go out. But it is what it is. Chester's 9-0. They're at home. They've got a shot. They've got the slingshot loaded up. Take your chances and see what they can do against Althoff.
Well, and exactly. And there's been a feeling of negativity coming from one side regarding this matchup, and I understand that, and I understand the thought process of, well, Althoff isn't 2A. They're not a 2A team. Well, you know what? Without the multiplier, they are a 2A team, and I don't know what makes them more of a 2A team than their enrollment. I mean, I understand the philosophy that, traditionally that would not be seen as a 2A power, but here's the thing. For everybody upset about it, and it's not just Chester, there's some schools up north in that area, traditional powers, that have been kind of upset through the media and upset on some of the forums and upset here, there, and everywhere. Here's the thing. Althoff wins. You want to know what? They're back to 4A next year, and they're back to 4A for 6 years.
Right.
So,
and they're back to 4A, and that's the way it goes. And so, I mean, it's one of those deals where they got to play. And if Chester's 9-0, it's a closed conference. It's a black diamond. There's some things that are good and bad with the closed conference. It is what it is. So Althoff today will play at 6 p.m. tonight at Chester. A lot of interest in that. You go on. And again, if Chester wins, it'll be one of the greatest upsets in the history of high school football.
Sure.
Based on size and conference and everything else. And if Chester doesn't win, then it was a good year and you move on.
Well, and I think that's the thing is trying to relay and relate to that type of mindset that, a 5-4 Althoff team rolling in 2A really is no different than a 5-4 Chicago team coming down here maybe in 5A, 6A, 7A, and rolling up. Okay, here's a hypothetical example. Maybe a Metro East larger school out of the Southwestern Conference, meaning a Chicagoland school that's 5-4. Say they're 9-0 or 8-1, and that team just happens to roll up the Southwestern Conference without much effort. That is no different than what the Althoff-Chester situation is this week. And you hate that for Chester, a team that put in a lot of work going 9-0 in the Black Diamond Conference, but sometimes that's the way the cookie crumbles, and don't hate the players, hate the game.
Well, when you look at 2A, the 3 2A games of teams in our area today, Johnson City, DuQuoin, Carmi, Casey, Westfield, and Althoff at Chester, you get the feeling that Johnston City, Carmi, and Chester are distinct underdogs in their matchups. I mean, that's the feeling I get, is that, DuQuoin is on a roll. They're at home. You can't, I just don't know what Johnson City can do with them. Carmi's at Casey Westfield. Carmi has never beaten Casey Westfield in the playoffs since '96. And then Althoff at Chester. So it's kind of like Johnson City, Carmi, and Chester are all under the gun, a little bit of underdogs as far as 2A goes.
Well, and there's always been this misconception that, and trying to figure out the best way to say this, a misconception that Southern Illinois should dominate at everything and be above everyone. But Central Illinois, Northern Illinois, you get up there, football is just a much different creature. And while we've had some great teams from Southern Illinois, don't get me wrong, just a bird of a different feather up there. And you think about teams like Rochester, you think about teams that are starting to kind of try to break that mold out of the Springfield area now compared to the North. But it's just been tough, and you have a closed conference in the BDC. Sometimes that doesn't make things as easy as it could be when you head in the postseason. You have some South 7 schools that are now starting to see the CS8 and more and playoff action as more South 7 schools start to get there. But you don't really get to see any of those teams in the regular season. I think Mount Vernon, the only team that had a CS8 school out of the South 7 Conference on its schedule. I'd have to triple check that because Althoff and Cahokia, you never know from year to year. And then with scheduling the way it's going, you're not going to know from year to year. But, you look at the river to river, and, they have a lot of crossover, or they might play some of the Cahokia schools, or they might play this school or that school. And really not a lot of Southern teams getting up to Central Illinois to play high school football. And with transportation costs rising and funding issues and things like that, you may not see it. So it's going to be tough. I know there's a lot of complaints out there as to how this works out every year. Some people wish they would just go back 1-32 and seeding it that way. Some people wish they would just be consistent, either go halves or quads. there's no perfect system to this, and what gets me is people are quick to criticize the IHSA for the things they do, but, the whole Althoff thing and the whole multiplication waiver, it wasn't designed to give schools like Althoff an easier road if they weren't able to win playoff games. It was to give St. Mary's of Assisi, some random located private school that really does not have much of a football program or much of a basketball program or something like that, instead of punishing them with that multiplier, it was designed to allow them to play where they should be, because unless somebody comes along, there's really no threat of them, taking advantage of the situation. So, I don't know, that's just something that's aggravated me over the past week since the pairings have come out.
Well, an Althoff or a Mater Dei is 10 times different, day and night different, than a Quincy Notre Dame, Chicago Mount Carmel, Joliet Catholic, by one reason: population.
Sure.
Because Mater Dei and Althoff, and again, Althoff can pull from St. Louis, so
Sure.
they're kind of out of the equation. I'm going to say what you saw and I saw last night. There were quite a few Missouri plates in Alton last night. Alton right there by the river. Going to say what it is. When you have the ability to pull from a populace of Chicago compared to Mater Dei or Althoff or Jabot or Quincy Notre Dame, makes a big difference. And Althoff has that ability in their schedule and their size, with Chester today.
Well, and
That's
you
the way
get
it is.
quite a few people that point the finger even at Mater Dei and how many feeder schools they have because of the non-boundaried thing. But the thing with Mater Dei is, what percentage of those kids are from Clinton County that would feed into Central or this, that, or the other? And because Central has quite a few feeder schools as well, and that's the thing that's kind of always aggravated me there is, while Mater Dei has some great programs and are very good athletically, it's not like, those kids are coming from Evansville, Indiana, or, things like that, where they're coming from these great distances. Sure, there might be some Mount Vernon kids at Mater Dei, so what? Happens.
They can choose from, I believe, a 25 or 30-mile radius within the Belleville Diocese.
There you go.
When you start doing that, and you pick breeze, and you draw a circle of 25 to 30 miles in a circle, that's a lot of people to get from.
Sure.
And as we heard yesterday, I heard yesterday in a particular conference in Mount Vernon, it is what it is, and sometimes it makes other teams better. And by knowing, hey, they got an advantage, we need to get better and go out and get play. It's one of those deals where you have to just get better. You have to compete harder.
Speaking of a team that competed harder, the Herrin Tigers were a team that had to play Massac County twice. Certainly no favors there in terms of playoff points. We'll talk about that with Herrin Tiger head football coach Jason Karnes. His team drew the Harrisburg Bulldogs today on the road. We'll talk with Coach Karnes after the break. Saturday Sports Show, of course, is presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
Have you ever been traveling out of town and realized you needed cash? Using another bank's ATM can cost you a few extra dollars in fees to get the cash you need. Well, not anymore. People's National Bank introduces MoneyPass. MoneyPass allows you to use over 23,000 additional ATMs in the United States without any fees. Stop by People's National Bank. Visit peoplesnationalbank.com or moneypass.com to find out more information. People's National Bank, providing our customers the highest quality products and services since 1909. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital. With our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge, the entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWeathersRadio.com. Glad to have you with us, courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Working on Jason Karnes, head coach of the Herrin Tigers, and of course, before that, are somewhat of a rant on the postseason system and why I don't think necessarily the postseason system is flawed. But now the talk, of course, the talk is trying to shift towards changing the playoff system. There's talk of trying to shift at maybe looking at trying to change the football conference system. Some proposals made by some principals to the IHSA. If we get some time, we'll try to talk about that a little bit later on in the program, or that might be a topic better served saving that for a little bit later on into the postseason. We'll try to catch up with Jason Karnes, head coach of the Herrin Tigers, here in just a moment. Tigers have a familiar foe today, conference rival Harrisburg.
Yeah, teams that met each other back earlier in the regular season, and Harrisburg won easily. And Herrin had a bunch of turnovers in that ball game, and since then the Herrin Tigers have had no turnovers, getting in last week 5-4 on a tiebreaker. And I believe that score back when was like 48-14. Harrisburg won at Herrin. Today, Harrisburg will be at home. Herrin makes the trip to Taylor Field there in Saline County. And that's going to be an interesting matchup. Two teams that know each other very well have met in the playoffs recently in an opening round game at Herrin. They know each other. They know what each other is going to do, very familiar with each other. And it's a case of what can happen. What can Herrin do this again? They had to survive a three-way tiebreaker last week to get to the third level to get into the playoffs. So this Herrin team has fought all year through scheduling issues, through teams that not enough playoff points to finally get in on tiebreaker. So we'll see if Herrin can go over there today to Harrisburg and get something done.
Well, and you want to talk about counting blessings. I mean, you have to play Massac County twice, and this was an atypical Massac team that unfortunately did not have any wins this year. So you count that goose egg twice. And for them to get into the postseason with that hampering them slightly, as opposed to maybe playing, the playoff points that Marion would have brought. But then you look at, had you done that, had you not won, you wouldn't have gotten in anyway. So it's kind of funny when you take a look back at how your season worked and the situation that allowed you to get in. It's a good thing that they were able to get Carbondale back on the schedule this year, though it was a team where they lost early in the season. They still got Carbondale's playoff points, and it was just enough to get them in.
Well, you and I, and amongst others, saw Herrin in Week 2 get beat 60-20 at Carbondale. They'd racked up 60 against Massac in Week 1, gave up 60 in Week 2, got shut out at home by DuQuoin, then lost to Benton at home by 6. So they're 1-3 after 4 weeks. They win 4 of their last 5, beating Frankfort, Murphy, Massac, and AJ. AJ is a team with a winning record. They had beaten on the schedule, first win against a winning team. But then, again, winning 4 out of their last 5 was an impressive run by the Herrin Tigers to get in.
Well, and a very impressive run indeed. We certainly hope that they can make something happen on their end. But, of course, we don't want to root against one team over another. The Harrisburg Bulldogs, Coach Roper, good friend of the program as well here on the Saturday Sports Show. So it'll be an interesting matchup between two Ohio schools that coincidentally used to be in the South 7 Conference, and so we will work on that. Jason Karnes joins us now on the Saturday Sports Show. Coach Karnes, good morning.
Morning, guys. Sorry about missing your call earlier.
You know what? That happens. No worries here. But talking a little bit about the Herrin Tigers, a team, I don't want to say they snuck into the postseason, but tiebreaker gets them into the postseason this year. And, thinking back to the schedule, we've talked about that all season long, about having to play Massac County twice. And, of course, that did not bring any playoff points. How relieved were you when you got the call that you guys were in?
Real relieved, actually. After Friday night, talking to my team in the end zone and knowing that we were 5-4, that they worked so hard and they came up a little short. I really didn't know. I was lost for words. Didn't know how to tell them. So I just meet up at the high school at 6 o'clock, and we'll have a playoff party in the commons there at the high school. Maybe we'll get our name called. But since after week 6, we played Harrisburg. We're sitting at 2-4. And I preached every day and each week that you just want to give yourself an opportunity. Our backs are against the wall, and they've all stepped up and rise to the occasion and have taken care of business 3 weeks in a row and taken care of the football. And it's another do-or-die game for us. That's the approach that our mentality that we've had for 4 straight weeks, and that's the approach we're taking in today.
Yeah, you mentioned the turnovers. You haven't had a turnover since the Harrisburg game in Week 6. What's been the key to taking care of the football in games in the last 3 weeks?
Well, in one game, Harrisburg, 6 turnovers, that could, sometimes that's as many as you have in a season. So that's the most I've ever had in a game being a coach here. So I was, pretty stressed out. But, just went back to, we're not going to change anything. Myself talking to my staff, but it was really going back to the fundamentals. And I take blame for it. But when you get going coaching in August and you go all summer and you get in August and you work on the fundamentals of blocking and tackling, the season gets going after week 2 or week 3, and you just kind of worry about your scheme and worry about getting guys in right position and running through plays and offense, defense, and you forget about the basics, which is blocking and tackling and taking care of the football. So after the Harrisburg game, that's all we do the first 30, 45 minutes, and I implemented in practice, and we just have really stressed and went through a lot of drills of ball security, and changed some things in practice, but really worked on the blocking and tackling, the aspects of the basic, football 101, and it's really helped this team out.
Football 101 gotten you 3 wins in a row at Murphy, at Massac, a big win against AJ at home last weekend to get to 5-4. You talk about turnovers. A familiar opponent today in Harrisburg. What can you take from that game in Week 6, if anything, into today's matchup?
Well, 48-14, and you turn the ball over 6 times. Guys, I don't care who you're playing. If you turn the ball over multiple times, especially 6 times, the score is going to be something like that. But, I don't think we're 34 points, less than them. But, we take care of the ball and only turn over 2 or 3 times. We missed out on 6 opportunities to possibly go down. But Harrisburg's a team that they're just going to try to beat you to death and kind of break it down defensively and get the kids really, put their heads down, because they're going to go 3 yards, 2 yards, 3 yards, 6 yards, and take 6-7 minutes off the clock. We just got to stay in there with them and fight, stay low, and hopefully get some stops early on. I know Week 6 against them, we didn't see the punt team until the third quarter. That's not always a good thing. But, we got to be able to take care of the football and get some stops and get them in some third and longs and get them punt early. And, I really like this team. Our team has totally done a 180, guys. It's that they've really taken to what I've, preached to them, and they've really stepped up and just have really worked hard. And, out of the 7 years I've been the head coach, to improve this much in 4 weeks, I haven't had a team improve this much and kind of clicking on all cylinders going to the postseason. So I'm real excited for the guys today, and hopefully we execute the game plan, and, that's no turnovers and take care of the football. And I think we'll be in a position in the second half to possibly win the ball game.
6 times in the playoffs in 7 years under your tenure there at Herrin. Was this the hardest team, or I should say the hardest time that you had to get a team into the playoffs in your 7 years?
Yeah, I think so. I'm an honest person, but, my dad told me a long time ago, guys, and, he'd been around football for, 45, 50 years and been coaching for about 38 years on the side playing high school and college. He always told me, any coach, and it's the truth, any coach can coach when you got talent. You see what kind of coach you got, what kind of coach you are when you don't have much talent, and see how you get them improving and stuff like that. So that's words of wisdom from a guy that I respect probably more in this world besides the Lord. And he just has been really helpful to me. And this is the first year he really hasn't been on our staff. He actually, retired after last year, resigned, I should say. And he comes over to games and, pops in and says some key things. But that's kind of the approach that we've taken. And, we keep it simple, and we just want to work hard and stay humble at the same time and stay hungry. And that's what this group has done. And they've grown up. We got a lot of young guys that have grown up and got 7 sophomores starting. Anytime you got 7 sophomores starting, this is I'm very pleased with our progress.
Hey, so that rumor is not true that he wanted more money to coach and he just gave it up, your dad, as far as being on your staff, and you wouldn't give it to him?
Yeah, he wanted a free gas card to get back and forth for me to pay his gas. But no, that's just a rumor. But, he has the football in his blood, the 50 miles back and forth 6 days a week. But he still comes over and watches his grandson play and football over here, and comes to every game. Him and my mom don't miss, and they're there. And if he can get up in the press box, he'll get up there and he'll come down at halftime. And he gave a pretty good, real touching speech before the Anna Jonesboro game last week at home. So it's pretty inspiring. It's something that you'd read in a book or see on TV. But he knows how to talk to student athletes. That's probably his best attribute, is he knows how to coach kids and knows how to handle them, and that's something that I try to gain from him and just try to use the same approach that he did all the years he coached.
Same approach for us. As you know, when you join us, we always ask a final question kind of off sports topic, and this week's question is, with Halloween being next Wednesday, if you were a kid, or you might be a kid at heart as well, what would you dress up for on Halloween?
Brady Hoke.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to, if I was the one who asked that question, that's exactly what I was going to ask, if he'd be Brady Hoke. And that's awesome.
I will see Brady Hoke's long-lost, how should I say this, groupie today, if he's on the chain gang at DuQuoin.
You will? He texted me this morning, give him a call when I can, so when I get off, I'm going to give him a call. But, he's up there last week and saw Sparty.
That was great, wasn't it?
He was happy. He called me. He was excited, and I talked to him all weekend when he was up there. One of these days, that's on my bucket list, besides the Wrigley Field and going to a Michigan football game. And I hate to say it to you, but even the Notre Dame game. But it's things that I need. I want to do sometime in my lifetime.
See, I got to go to Michigan too. I got to make one trip just to say I've been there. I mean, I can't do the traveling schedule that our buddy does because he's like a roadie with him. I'm surprised he's not out in Lincoln.
I said maybe me and you, Danny, ought to get a loan from him. The guy, he's traveling every week and he goes all over the world with him.
Well, I know. I don't get it. I'm surprised he's not at Nebraska tonight at 7 as soon as DuQuoin game's over today.
Coach Karnes, we wish you the best of luck today against Harrisburg.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate all you do, and you guys do a fantastic job, and thanks for having me on, okay?
Thank you very much. Jason Karnes, of course, head coach of the Herrin Tigers. And I just knew it. And I was, of course, I was. But good friend, the dairy product, of course, will be on the sidelines at DuQuoin Johnson City today. That should be a good one. We'll talk with WMIX sports correspondent Jeff Lonnon after the break. We'll get his thoughts on the Johnson City Indians and DuQuoin Indians today, and to talk a little bit about preparation for the high school football playoffs. And we remind you can chime in on the discussion, our WMIX Sports social media question of the week. You can do it on Facebook or Twitter. WMIX Sports is the locale for both of those. Whether you're a kid at heart or if you could go back and be a kid again right now, what would you dress up for as Halloween? And some very interesting ones so far. Not on our Facebook page, but on Facebook in general, I saw a very interesting Mickey Mouse. So, we'll take a break on that note. Come back, we'll talk with Jeff Lonnon, WMIX Sports Correspondent, here on the Saturday Sports Show. It's presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
How does 1.9% for up to 84 months sound on all Ram 1500 trucks? Hi, Roy Schmidt, Dodge dealer at King City Chrysler Center, Mount Vernon. I thought that sounded great, but couldn't believe it when I saw 1.9% plus a $1,500 rebate on quads and crew cabs, or a $500 rebate on regular cabs. Wow, Ram Power Days are here to make an impact. We would love to have your truck trade and in return offer you a deal too good to pass up. There is something for everyone here at King City Chrysler Center at 1603 Broadway in Mount Vernon. See one of our sales consultants about driving away in a new Ram 1500 or any new or pre-owned Dodge, Chrysler, or Jeep. Or see our inventory on KingCityChrysler.com and find us on Facebook. And don't forget, next time you need to go on vacation, take a business trip, or just need a temporary ride, King City Chrysler is a Hertz rental car agent and can handle any need.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital. With our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge, the entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
Whatever you do, don't fall asleep. Jack, listen to me. Don't go to sleep, Jack.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWeathersRadio.com. Glad to have you aboard, courtesy of Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Oh, we welcome to the program now our WMIX sports correspondent, one of them anyway, Jeff Lonnon. Coach, good morning.
Good morning, Chris. Danny, how you guys doing?
You know, I'm doing pretty good. It's high school football playoff time, the second day now of that, and plenty of good games going on around the region. Should be a beautiful day for high school football with temperatures around the 50-degree mark and sunny skies. So, all in all, should be a great day for high school football.
Yeah, I know. It kind of makes me miss it. You know, we used to have those Saturday playoff games, and I have a lot of good memories of those, and there's nothing like Saturday afternoon football when the whole community comes out and you know, the face paint's out there on the kids, and the stands are full of school colors, and the barbecue's going, and, you know, on and on and on. There's just a special atmosphere, you know, for Saturday afternoon playoff football. So, yeah, I'm missing it a little bit today, being a part of that as a coach. So I'm going to go to see my friend Dan Mings, Johnson City, going to DuQuoin today. So I'm going to attend over there and take all that in and hopefully have a good time.
Well, and of course, a good time it may be, but talk a little bit about, of course, I know you seem to be a guy that prefers the Saturday afternoon playoff football. Of course, as we all know, I'm a Friday night guy, or just under the lights if we can, any type of football game. But what goes in to preparing for a postseason football game? You've done it plenty of times in your career, but what goes into that preparation?
Well, the main thing is, first of all, when you play on your last Friday game is on week 9, so you're playing on Friday typically. So you really have an extra day, between Friday and then you're in, so you play that following Saturday. So you're basically getting an extra day to do with what you want in preparation. I think what we always did was we didn't alter our practice plan any. We just kind of gave those kids on that extra day. We spent that in film, and we spent that basically on the board. Spent that, basically without pads on. In other words, used it as kind of a day of rest and recovery, even though we still were trying to get some things done in a classroom setting more, as opposed to being on the field. So, health is such an issue after week 9. I think most of your teams are everybody's got some sort of injury bug, and everybody's kind of beat up. So we always use that extra day to kind of get them off their feet and do something, more in the film room as opposed to being out on the field banging against each other. And then, we would basically not change anything with our practice plan. I was always a big guy about, what got you there is what you need to keep doing, in the playoffs. There's just no need to get all excited and dramatic and start throwing a bunch of new things at them in week 10 just because you're excited that you got the playoffs. I mean, I think that maybe that mistake has probably been made a few too many times, and I think it's just very important you stay with what got you there in your practice. I don't think it's necessary to change a lot of things around in week 10. I think the main thing more is what you're going to do, what you did to get yourself there. Take the extra day and get them off their feet a little bit, and then go get them on Saturday. And that that's I think what most of these teams probably have done this week.
One of your fans wants to know, as far as the schedule goes on Saturday, about waking up and getting ready for a game, the difference in being at home or going on the road, where it's an hour, 2 hour, 3 hour, 4 hour. How does that affect coaches and teams? The difference of being at home for a game compared to being on the road for a high school playoff game?
Well, it's extremely important that you're home that first week, in my opinion. I think that anytime you can put them in their own beds on Friday night and have them wake up in their own beds on Friday morning and have them, be on a normal meal schedule and then show up at a familiar surrounding. I think, kids are creatures of habit, and we are too as adults. And, it's a whole lot more comfortable for us to prepare in our own environment as opposed to, having to leave our environment at 9 in the morning and drive to Bloomington or drive to, that's where all, wherever we went or wherever we're going. Because typically in Mount Vernon, at Mount Vernon, when we were in the playoffs, it was generally not a close playoff game if we had to travel. I think we went to Marion one year, but, we've been some places and we just always hope for that home playoff games. It really is important. And like I said, kids are creatures of habit, and they tend to be better in their comfort zone. And home is your comfort zone. So the road in the playoffs or in the regular season, it really doesn't matter. Going on the road is a distinct advantage for the home team. That's why, a lot of these kind of pick-em games, you get on your little cards every week where your buddies are wanting you to pick games. And when you see those even matchups, more often than not, the home team, when it's you can't decide who's going to win, you pick the home team, and about 80% of the time, that's the team that wins because they're home.
I look at it, and you're speaking of that percentage, I'm kind of one of those, a team can go on the road an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours, and maybe do some good. But when you start getting over that 2 hour limit, and the farther you go into playoffs, unless you just got an outstanding team, the tougher it is for a team to go on the road for a 2 hour bus trip or more in order to pull off a win. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that.
Well, and I think, it's an interesting statement, but when you think about it, there's a lot of our young people who haven't been 2 hours away from their hometown ever. It almost becomes a situation where, I've been to, if I'm in Mount Vernon or I'm in Benton or I'm not, this is not just one school, we any kids anywhere, but, just for example, in Mount Vernon, I've been to Salem, I've been to Benton, I've been to Carbondale, I've been to Marion, but Bloomington now, or Champaign, or somewhere like that becomes almost a new, experience. And there's a little bit of a distraction, in my opinion, in that when you get all your kids that have to go so far away that they've never been there before. And going to Marion's a whole lot different than going to Bloomington. I can promise you, it's the same playoff game. It's the same, same deal. You win, you're in, and if you're out, you're out. But if you lose, but it's two completely different trips because of the distance. So I think that's a good point. Yep.
A game you're going to, I'm going to, Johnson City at DuQuoin. Battle of Red and Black, Battle of Indians. These teams have faced each other 92. Johnson City had the lead at half for DuQuoin. One went on to a state title. About 5 years ago, Johnson City went in. DuQuoin handed them a pretty tough loss. Today, Dan Mings takes Johnson City into DuQuoin, the turf at Van Meter. Your thoughts on that game this afternoon from both sides of the football?
Well, that's tremendous history you added there, first of all, and that's history I wasn't even aware of. But obviously, you take a top diamond school and you travel to a top river school. DuQuoin's at home. How many years in a row now is it for DuQuoin? They've been in the playoffs, like 300,000 years in a row. It's just phenomenal. But same with Johnson City. I mean, you're talking about two perennial powers in two different conferences. One's going on the road, and DuQuoin's going to be at home. I think, obviously that's a small advantage for DuQuoin. But, I think probably 90% of the people you ask would say, well, DuQuoin is the favorite in this game. But listen, if Johnson City can control the ball on the ground and get first downs and run that clock, I mean, anything can happen. I mean, the ball control is so important for them today, and and not giving up a big play when they're on defense. Those are the two things they got to just keep the ball in front of them defensively, and then they've got to chew up first downs and run clock on offense. And they're set up to do that. They run what we ran at Mount Vernon for those 4 or 5 years and did so well with. And I'm very interested to see if they'll be able to move the ball with their offense and then play good enough defense to make it a game in the fourth quarter. I'm interested, but certainly DuQuoin's a fine team, and it'll take a special effort on the road, but I think it's doable for them. Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit more about the Diamond T. It's a formation that was brought to Mount Vernon, highly successful in 2005, and now it is successful in Johnson City. What makes the Diamond T so effective?
Well, it's nothing. I mean, it's nothing that hasn't been done before. I mean, the angles and the blocking and all that. I mean, it's nothing that was invented just by any of us or anything like that. We went down and got it from an old boy in Arkansas, and we just kind of got it kind of tailored to our kids at that time. Now, kids change, and that type of offense, in certain years wouldn't be worth a crap. Depending on what kind of kids you had, but we just kind of fit our kids during that era. But it's a power offense. You have to have strong linemen who can drive and move people and wedge the inside of the hole and kick out on the outside of the hole, and then you have to have backs who can get in that hole and go. And it's a system, and that's what I like about it. It's not just a grab bag of plays where you're just guessing. There's a system of plays that encompasses maybe 7 or 8 running plays, and then a couple play action passes and some screens that work off of that. And it all kind of just fits in real neat. And the whole idea is to just work one area of the field and then counter the other way. And then when they think you're going to do that, your play action or your screens are there. So it's very simple, but yet if you stay with it, it does have a cumulative effect over the game. On a defense to figure out what's coming and how to stop it, and it also wears the defense down. If you got kids running it at you for the whole game, it's power football, and your opponent has to be in shape and they have to be ready to step up in the fourth quarter, or it does tend to start to be very effective. So, again, I believe in it, because I helped out with it. So I'm just really anxious to see today if the matchups favor Johnson City offensively, where they can get those first downs and move the ball in the system.
I look at some other games today, and some other games stick out in my mind. But what are some of the other games in the area that kind of you're going to have your eye on as far as what could be some very good matchups?
Well, I'm anxious to see what the Benton game is. That's the one I'm kind of keeping my eye on. The other one would be the Carmi game. I saw Carmi play Johnson City, like week 2 or week 3, and just absolutely crush Johnson City at Johnson City. And Carmi Day is playoff football. You never know what's going on. I really am interested in that Carmi game and that Benton game. I'm not seeing the Rangers this year, but since I live here and I used to work there, I always kind of keep one eye on the ball there with them. But my main focus, Danny, really is going to be at DuQuoin with Johnson City, and I think that's just because I know all those guys down there and keep in touch with them, and they're great friends. So that's going to be my main focus today, and I think, Christopher, you're still going with me today, aren't you?
Yeah.
So Hugo and I guess, are going to head down that way too, so he's going with me. So we should have a good time, and it's going to be beautiful football weather, I know that.
It's a different atmosphere at DuQuoin. I mean, there's people been there already a couple hours, tailgating, cooking in the parking lot there, and then, of course, the new football field. This is the first time I've been to DuQuoin for a game with the turf, so this is all a new experience here for me.
Well, it is for me, too, and I'll tell you, it's funny how there's just some places you can go, on any given week, not just, playoff Saturday, but, there's just some places you can go, and there's just a little extra there in the air, and I can't describe it. It's just there. I think Mount Carmel is probably one of those places. The Rams had to go up there and play, last week in week 9, and it's just a tough place to play, but there's just something that's got kind of that little extra feel to it where, football is just more than a game, and I think there's a few towns that kind of come to mind. Mount Carmel, just because we went up there last week, but DuQuoin's one of those towns. Metamora, Chris, you probably remember that going up there. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, you were there that year.
I remember the $5,000 50-50.
Yeah, and like the Mount Vernon 50-50 people went in one bucket, and the Metamora 50-50 people mysteriously went in the other bucket, and then when they drew, it was somebody from,
because they had different colored tickets. I remember that well.
They treated us like gold, though. We went up there, and I think this was probably the case if you went to any of these places, that, DuQuoin, Mount Carmel, Metamora, Geneseo, there's another one, just out of the top of my head, but there's just some towns that it's just a little bit more than a game. It's almost more like life to the town in the fall, and that was definitely one of them. But, what I found when I go to those places, those real, those places where there's just a little extra going on, they treat you well. They know how to be classy. They know how to, shake your hand at the end of the game. There's no baloney going on. I mean, they're just top-notch football towns. And Johnson City, in the Diamond, perennial powerhouse. Again, I shouldn't even leave them out. You just bring up examples, but it's the same way there. So, there's just certain towns where it's just a little bit more than a game. And I think, DuQuoin's one of those towns that we're going to today. So, and I think that it is evidenced by what they did by putting in that facility. There's not a lot of high school facilities, around with turf, even though there's more and more getting them now because I think they're more economically friendly with the upkeep and the maintenance. But, that's a huge financial, commitment to your football program. And I think that, they do it right over there. And Johnson City and Carterville both have kind of followed suit. So, those are two other places. But, I just look forward to going to DuQuoin period because I know that, the fans are going to be respectful and the game is going to be clean and the best team will win today. No question about it. There won't be any doubt in my mind that when a team goes over there, it's going to be first class and you're going to have to play very, very hard, good, solid football to win there. So, and Coach Martin, my gosh, if you've ever met Al Martin, I mean, there isn't a nicer, classier person on the face of the earth. And he's been doing this for years, and he's got a whole bunch of wins and a whole bunch of playoff appearances and even a couple state titles. So, so there's just some places that are special, and DuQuoin is one of them, obviously. And and Johnson City out of the Diamond, another real special place in their conference going over there. I think it's just a tremendous atmosphere for that. So I'm looking forward to going.
Of course, Lon, it's been a while since you've been on, but we do have the WMIX Sports Social Media Question of the Week. And, it's Halloween time, and if you could be a kid again, or some people are kids at heart, and that's great, what would you dress up for? What would be your costume for Halloween? If you were a kid again and trick-or-treating, all that business. Bigfoot? So you'd be Gigantopithecus.
Sasquatch.
Nice. The great North American skunk ape.
Yes, the great North American skunk ape, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, the Yeti. You want to get me on a Bigfoot talk now. I mean, that's going to take us another hour. You know that. You can't
yeah, that's... But,
I have a print given to me by a very close friend recently who thought I needed a picture of the North American Sasquatch.
Oh, yeah. Never hurts to have extra art.
It's right
around the home.
It's right here in front of me. Yeah, I got it. It's right here. Yeah.
Awesome.
Some man named Christopher Hugo must have been at a rummage sale somewhere.
No, that was actually the fiance found that online, and that was her doing.
In that case, it was probably at a fine shop somewhere at a mall.
Of course, because it was my money. So, that being said, Lana, we will see you here soon, and also we will talk to you again about Lady Rams basketball very shortly in the month of November.
Very much. We start that on Monday, so we're looking forward to that, and I look forward to talking to you about our basketball team too. So we'll see you down the line. Give me a call back, and we'll talk about that.
There we go. Jeff Lonnon, of course, WMIX sports correspondent today. We need to get to Sara, Lamczyk, head coach of the Woodlawn Lady Cardinals, her team regional champions on Thursday night over Christ Our Rock Lutheran. We'll take a break. This is a Saturday sports show presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Back after these.
Follow the adventures of a cherished Rivertown youth who always seems to find mischief with the Rend Lake College Theater's production of Tom Sawyer, based on the novel by Mark Twain. See local thespians in this delightful presentation. The curtain goes up at 7 p.m. on November 8th, 9th, and 10th, with a special 2 p.m. matinee on November 11th. Tickets are just $12 and are available now at the Rend Lake College Theater box office at rlc.edu or by calling toll-free 800-369-5321, extension 1214.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital. With our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge, the entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
And welcome back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, MyWeathersRadio.com. Chris Hugo with Danny Zerwinski, Jeff Crow in studio, presented by Crossroads Community Hospital. It's more than a hospital.
It's what healthcare should be.
Our next guest, Sara Lamczyk, head coach of the Woodlawn Lady Cardinals. They win the Wayne City Regional this past week, defeating Christ Our Rock Lutheran. Of course, Woodlawn winning, I believe, as the 2, defeated Christ Our Rock, who was the 1 in that final matchup, 25-23, 19-25, and 25-19. Coach Lamczyk, good morning and congratulations.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hey, you look at this season so far. We saw you play Mount Vernon back in September. You rolled through. What's been the key to all that success for you to win a regional championship?
I would like to just say that it's my girls. They work so hard. They just got used to lots of different things. We changed the lineup probably 5 or 6 times and changed our defense up, and they never got down on themselves, even though we kind of had a little bit of a couple shaky games, and they just keep working, and I just can't say enough about their teamwork and their work ethics. They're just awesome girls.
Awesome girls, a lot of success in a lot of different sports through the junior high school, travel team success. How much of a role did that play in the experience in battling through winning the first set, losing the second, but winning that tough third to become regional champions?
I think it plays a big part. You know, we have a lot of girls that play club volleyball. We got a lot of girls that play some traveling, even like softball and things like that. They seem really good at handling pressure situations. So I was kind of excited. I was worried, you know, we're young, but they went in there and they never got shook. They just kept fighting the whole time.
You look at your team and you get this big win over CORL. You had a matchup earlier in the year where you went there and lost. How much of that did that play in a role in preparing for that match on Thursday night?
I think it played a pretty big role. When we went there earlier in the season, we did lose, but I didn't feel like my team showed up to play that night. It was a different team at that time, and we knew kind of their big hitter, Amanda Geiger. We knew what we needed to do. We had to stop her. Then we kind of went and watched them play on before our game on Tuesday, and I kind of wrote some notes down, and we practiced it on Wednesday, and they just they capitalized on everything that we did, and we did a great job at stopping her and just stopping them in general.
Another regional championship in volleyball for Woodlawn for your program. You move on into Lebanon sectional on Tuesday night playing St. Elmo. What, if anything, at this early stage do you know about St. Elmo?
I've been kind of trying to research. I got a couple phone calls in. I'm talking to a few coaches that play them, and I know that they have a pretty good setter. They got a left-handed setter that likes to hit the ball on the second hit a lot, and I actually have to call back with another coach to talk about it a little more. So we're going to try to have a pretty good idea of maybe how to attack them and where to go. So.
And speaking of that, but obviously you and I are in the same profession during the day. We had the day off Thursday and Friday. The students did. You had a match that Thursday night for a regional. Was there any concern as to the altered change of schedule for your team to go through? Maybe sleeping in late, not doing your usual normal routine heading into that match with Thursday night.
Yeah, actually, we talked about it on Wednesday, and I was like, please do not sleep all day, because you will come in tired. And the girls are like, we're going to get up early. I said, take a walk, do something together. So actually, they all got together as a team, and they went out to eat about 2 o'clock in the afternoon and kind of got themselves a little focused. And I was really happy to see them do that. And that's how they are. They're just great girls. They all get along. They're just like best friends on and off the court, and it really shows when they play together.
Speaking of that, when they play together, your team plays Tuesday. As I said, what's the plans as far as practice and getting ready, especially at this stage of the year when you really basically know what you want to do heading in this match?
I think that we practiced yesterday, even though we just won. We practiced yesterday. We got Monday. We're just going to work on our basic, some blocking, work on our setters, getting the ball to the hitters where we want it. I think if we attack the ball, I don't know if anybody, I think they're going to have a hard time stopping Annie Wareheim and Sabrina Durham and Ryan French. Carly Etheridge. We just have a whole line of hitters, and our setters can hit, our setters can block. So we're just going to kind of critique things. At this point, they know how to play. They know what they have to do, and if they just show up like they did the other night and work and play defense, and they're all over the place. They're all over the court. I think they're going to have a real hard time beating us.
Speaking of being all over the place, of course, we have our social media question of the week. This week's question is, if you could be a kid again or your kid at heart, what would you dress up for on Halloween next Wednesday?
Well, I think I'd have to dress up as Pippi Longstocking. I don't know if anybody would know who that is,
yes.
But that was my favorite. I love Pippi Longstocking.
Very nice. I do know what that is. Of course, you and I know about
good.
that. Yes. Yeah. Coach, we wish you nothing but the best. You'll play next Tuesday at 7 p.m. at the Lebanon sectional against St. Elmo. We wish you nothing but the best, and hopefully we're talking to you next Saturday about a sectional championship.
I hope if anybody wants to come out and root on our Cardinals, we would sure appreciate it.
Most importantly, Jeff Crow's raising both of his hands now. You can expect him there.
Okay, great.
Hey, Coach, thanks for being on. That's Sara Lamczyk, the head coach of the Woodlawn Lady Cardinals volleyball team. They won the regional championship Thursday night at Wayne City. Of course, as I said, once again, they'll play Tuesday at 7 at the Lebanon Sectional against St. Elmo. We need to step out and take a break. We'll come back. WMIX sports correspondent John Shadowens will join us here on the Saturday Sports Show on WMIX.
Hi, this is Joe David Cummins, President of Community First Bank. I wanted to stop and thank each person running for political office in our area. The commitment, passion, and concern they show in their campaign is truly amazing to me. These people show their concern for the community by stepping out there and placing their personal lives to the scrutiny of everyone. Nothing better shows a commitment to community than those selfless acts. All of us at Community First Bank would like to encourage everyone to vote and thank those candidates and volunteers for their hard work during this campaign season. Community First Bank with locations in Mount Vernon, Woodlawn, Dixon, Ina. Welcome back to personal banking. Member FDIC.
When an emergency happens, time is everything, and you don't want to spend that time in a waiting room. So choose Crossroads Community Hospital. With our 30 minutes or less ER service pledge, the entire team is committed to working diligently to have you initially seen by a physician, physician assistant, or nurse practitioner within 30 minutes of your arrival. When minutes matter, choose the ER that doesn't waste time. Choose Crossroads Community Hospital. Visit crossroadscommunityhospital.com/faster to learn more. If you are experiencing a medical emergency, call 911.
And we welcome you back to the Saturday Sports Show, WMIX, on MyWithersRadio.com. It's our final segment today. We've talked a lot of high school football today. We've also talked some high school volleyball as well. Glad to have you with us as we wrap it up. We bring back WMIX sports correspondent John Shadowens. Coach, good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Beautiful day, isn't it?
Oh, it's a great day. I'm not traditionally a Saturday afternoon playoff football type of guy. I prefer under the lights, but this is going to be a gorgeous day, and the temperature is going to be perfect, I think, for high school football.
Yeah, it's fourth year in a row, really. It's the first Saturday of playoff Saturday. It's been played under blue skies and just beautiful, great weather like this.
So the first real question of the day is this. What game are you going to this afternoon?
Well, I'm going to go to what I think might be the second closest game of the day around here anyway. I'm going to see Robinson and Benton play. Due to it's my stepdaughter's maybe her last game as a cheerleader, and I need to go see her one more time.
I figured that, and this Robinson-Benton game, I think, to me, and probably you, some others, is a little more intriguing than a 6-3 and an 8-1. I think there might be some undertones in this that a lot of people think Robinson's got more than just a chance to come into Benton today and win.
Yeah, I think so. I think the jury's still out on Benton. Anytime they've played a winning team this year, of course, they've struggled a bit. And, I think Benton's got a lot to prove today.
Speaking of a lot to prove, we got all kinds of games going on in the area today. But you're going to Robinson at Benton. I'm going to Johnson City at DuQuoin. Any other games going on in the area today that kind of strike you as being a game to kind of watch out for?
Yeah, I think so. I think even though it's two Black Diamond teams playing and maybe their aspirations aren't a state championship, I think the closest game of the day around here anyway might be Vian and Sesser-Valier. The Sesser-Valier senior group is well-seasoned in playoff games. They've got a lot of experience when it comes to that. Even though they haven't won a playoff game yet, I think this might be their year. So Vian is happy to be there, and they've got great coaching and all, but that's an intriguing game as well.
An intriguing game as well. Speaking of that, you as a coach have prepared several years from the assistant to the head coaching side for the playoffs. The difference in preparing for today, whether you're on the road or at home, the big difference is that goes in those two kinds of games.
Oh, it's night and day. For one thing, the logistics with the planning the travel, when you're going to feed the kids. Usually you're going to a place you've never been before. A couple of years ago we went to Nashville. I hadn't coached a game in Nashville before, didn't know where we'd be dressing. All those things that you haven't done before affects kids.
I look at that, too. When you go into a different place and you look at the travel, and we were talking about this with Jeff Lonnon just a few minutes ago, my theory is a high school football team can go on the road for an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours, and still have a decent shot at probably pulling an upset or winning the game on the road. When you get past that 2-hour frame, it seems to me like the chances go down for a road win. Is that kind of what you see over the years?
That's exactly it. I think that anytime you're over an hour, you start taking points away. It's so hard to keep kids focused for a bus ride that long. We've tried all kinds of things before in the past at Sesser-Valier. We've tried charter buses. We've tried feeding them early. We've tried feeding them late. We've tried not feeding them, just feeding them snacks. There's all kinds of things to try to do to break up the trip. And I haven't found the magic formula yet. I'll tell you that right now.
I don't know if there's a magic formula, but it seems to me that teams go on the road, and the later in the rounds you get, like today, I think in the first round games, home teams win like over 65% of the games since 01. Now, I'm a nerd. I keep track of things like this. But as you go further in the rounds, it gets tougher. Why is it so much tougher to go on the road and win as the later rounds of the playoffs go on here in high school football?
Well, I think you hit on it first. First of all, just the sheer time in the bus just takes so much out of you. And the unfamiliarity of going to a place, not sure what's coming next. That unnerves kids a lot of times. If your locker room happens to be a half a mile from the field like we've done before, kids say, where in the world are we dressing? Where in the world are we going to play? and things besides football start creeping into their heads.
Speaking of creeping into their heads, of course, lots of games going on today. You're going to Robinson, Benton. A matchup that's getting a lot of publicity, Althoff at Chester, based on the new rules. Your thoughts on that matchup going on today over at Chester tonight at 6 o'clock?
I don't know. What a mess, Danny, as far as passion on both sides. The IHSA has got a tough time because, you really got two separate kinds of schools here, private and public, playing with two different sets of rules, yet we're trying to determine one state champion. And I think the IHSA is doing the best they can, trying to make it fair. You slap a multiplier on these private schools, and they're in over their heads sometimes. They're playing a class up, two classes up at times, and that doesn't seem fair. Then you let them go back down a class, and then the people in the lower classes don't think that's fair. I'm not sure there's any one solution that's going to make everybody happy.
I think it is what it is, and if you're Chester, don't you just have to, at this point, put it out of your heads and go out and treat them like any other football team and go play your brand of football that's got you to 9-0?
Oh, yeah. You get back and feel sorry for yourself. We had a similar deal in 2009. We had a 9-0 team, and we knew we'd get a 5-4 team, but we didn't expect that we would get a team the caliber of a Nashville who had some injuries earlier in the year and kind of played below what they were capable of, and we ended up playing a very, very good 5-4 team in Nashville. Not the caliber probably of an Althoff, of course, but at the same time you think, man, what a reward for a 9-0 season.
Final question today, of course, as you know, we always ask our WMIX Sports social media question of the week, and this week's question is, if you could be a kid again, or if you're a kid at heart, what would you dress up for on Halloween this Wednesday?
You know what? This is really going to shock you guys, but my favorite costume of all whenever I was a kid was I dressed up as an African-American football player. My mom put a set of pantyhose over my head, and I thought that was the best costume I ever had.
You join Clint Turner, Mount Vernon boys cross-country coach. He dressed up as Roger Worley, wore a number 22 jersey and everything as St. Louis football Cardinals.
That would have been a great one, too. I loved Roger Worley as a kid. But most of my idols, when I was growing up, were African-Americans, in the NFL. And I wanted to look like them, so Mom helped me out a little bit.
Coach, that is awesome. I thought you might go with a bear with a license plate necklace or something along those lines, but this is equally as
Never
good.
Never gets old there, Chris.
Well, that joke will play itself out the rest of this year, maybe, or maybe it ends today. But we appreciate the time you've taken, and hopefully next week we can talk some more playoff football.
Sounds great, guys.
That's John Shadowens, WMIX sports correspondent here. Glad to have him all season long, and glad we could make that connection today. And oh, man. Busy day of high school football. You can find a complete listing of games in our area on Facebook, facebook.com/WMIX Sports, as well as some scores from last night. And we'll keep you up to date however we can on Twitter today. You can follow us there at WMIX Sports. Don't forget, tomorrow it'll be St. Louis Rams football in the UK as they take on the New England, maybe just the England Patriots by tomorrow. Who knows? That'll be on AM 940 tomorrow at noon. This is...
They may take them back.
Yeah, I was going to say, did you feel where I was going there finally? WMIX Mount Vernon, time for NBC News.